Hey guys, Rebecca Rodriguez here. Here for the Chucky production kind of like instructional video on how I color the Chucky animation. So yeah. Hey. Whoop. Hey. So, I want to start, this one, the beak is already colored. I want to start by coloring the inside of the lines, but as you can see here in the color layer, we have no color bubbles, as I like to call them, that usually comprise of the colors. So for example, if we were to hit Alt-Y, which is paint unpainted, it doesn't paint anything. So what you're going to do is that you're going to select all of the line layer. And by doing that with all of the drawings, you hit this button right here, which says apply to all frames. So you check that. And let's see. All right. It just literally select like the whole thing. Let's see if, oh, wait. I am on the wrong layer. I apologize. I should be in the drawing layer. So I select all of the animation, just to be safe. All right. So let's see. We go into drawing, I believe it is. Yep. Create color art from line art. So you select that. And apparently my computer's gonna want to be super slow for this process, because you know, it's not like I'm recording or anything. Alright, so now when we go into the color layer, you see these like little bubbles. Let me just turn off, actually let me go into the drawing layer. That way you see these like little bubbles. Now what you're also going to notice is that there's like little bits of dirt like this. They're sort of like broken bits of line. Whoops. Turn off the select all. So you see these broken bits of line. There's ways of cleaning that up both in the line layer and the color layer. So what you're gonna want to do is be on the line layer, go to drawing, clean up, and put remove dirt. If you want it to be to all the drawings, do that. And as you can see, as you're selecting, let me just cancel so I can zoom in a little bit more. Drawing. Why was up? Okay, move dirt. And so you see there's like little specks of things that you would want to remove, but there's other pieces that are, because this line art is a little rougher, some of the pieces will be essential to do this. So if you go too far, you might actually, for example, eliminate some of these lines. So do be careful. As you can see, move dirt. Yeah, just a little bit to remove some of the dirt, but still keep all of those like really essential lines. You can always do this again later on if you feel like there was a little bit of specks of dirt that you still want to do. So we're gonna start off just by coloring these bubble layers. The way that I color them is with paint unpainted. So that's gonna be your shortcut for, wow, this is really big. Okay. Paint unpainted. Great wording, Rebecca. So, all right, paint unpainted, and the shortcut for this one should be, honestly, I'm just gonna put this outside of the drawing layer per se, because I feel like it's gonna get really confusing later on. So let me just paint unpainted. I swear I know how to write. It's just, so the shortcut for paint unpainted is actually Alt-Y. So if I go to Alt-Y, you can see here that it says paint unpainted, and what that does is that paints areas that do not currently have paint on them. So going back into the drawing layer and going back into the, there we go. So there are ways of making this a little faster depending on what it is that you want or what the predominant color is. There are areas where you could do this automation kind of thing that does make it easier, but be careful because say you see how this animation, the arms kind of cross in front of the shirt and stuff like that. So let's say that I'm going to try and color this shirt. Whoops, let me just import, I forgot that this is a new one, so let me just import the palette, Chucky color palette library, boop, boop. And there we go. So now we have the Chucky color palette. So let's say that we're going to color in his shirt and we're going to do the automation kind of way. So again, we select apply to all frames. So you want to take this on the paint unpainted, and let's say that you paint like this. So it looks great in some of these frames, but as you can see, actually it looks pretty half decent. Oh, well, here we go. Just there will come points where the arms kind of cross in front of them that it would paint that. So that's not really ideal to, let's say, start in that area because of this kind of like color problems that we're gonna have with it. So let's see what we can do with that. Let's start with some areas that we know are not gonna move a lot, like let's say the legs and feet. As you can tell, the kind of stay in similar positions overall. So I can very easily take this, the legs color, and select. And oh, here we go. One of the common problems that we do find with this is that sometimes it will not paint. Now you see all of these yellow dots right here? Those are essentially sort of like the endings of lines that might be like lines that are not closed. So when you color these like color bubbles, they have to be closed. So here, what it indicates is that here it's not a closed bubble line. So when you have a shape that, you know, here it's completely, you could see there that it's completely closed. I might be over-explaining, and I apologize. So what we want to do is that we're gonna do, just get a, you know what? No, we just, sure, why not? So I'm gonna go back into my sketch info, and we're gonna go, and what was I saying? Close gaps. Okay, so to close gaps, in the color art, you're going to use Alt-C. If I'm not mistaken, that should be close gaps. Yes. So now we go back into our drawing layer. Again, with the, God, I hope I'm not confusing people. Okay. So now we go into this color layer, and we're going to close these gaps. They don't always have to be as perfect as you want them to be. You just kind of need to close them really quick. It doesn't need to be very fancy or anything. It just needs to sort of close. So you will be tempted to want to close as many of these as possible right away, but I think it's a lot more effective to kind of focus on one area first, because it's just more less time consuming than to go frame by frame and go like, oh my god, there's like a gap over here. And by the way, not all the yellow dots are bad per se. Like for example, here is a line that comes out here, but the bubble is closed. It's just that here is an unfinished line, but it's natural for it to be there because it's a part of the line art, and that is fine. You only close gaps, like for example here, it's a very small one, but you can just barely catch it. And trust me, without these little bits and pieces, it will not paint. Alright, so I'm going against what I was explaining first of like only focusing on one area. So for example, I know because I do know that the artist kind of copy pasted some of these areas. I know that some of these same bubble problems might show up in similar areas. So we're gonna, you see, there we go. For like all of these frames, there's this like bubble gap right there. So let me see if I can, let me see if this one has, no, it does, oh, wait. Well, poop. So this one apparently does not have the do it for every frame kind of thing. So honestly, time to work. So what you want to do is literally just go frame by frame by frame, just kind of like doing this. Also, just in case nobody knows, to move back and forth from frame to frame in Toon Boom, you use the comma and dot, which are also sort of like the more than and less than in the math equation kind of thing. That's more confusing. Never mind, just dots and commas. So literally you just do this infinity times until you got something working for you. I gotta edit this down so that you don't have to see literally every single line that I do. It is a little bit of tedious work, but when the lines are done correctly, the thing is that this isn't an industry standard line art as of yet. But it was good enough to put into the animation for the crowdfunding video. So we chose not to clean up the lines because they were, you know, good enough for what we needed at the moment. But at some other point, we will set some industry standards for how line art needs to be and stuff like that, and it will make this whole coloring process a lot quicker. So let's say up to there. Go back to Alt Y. Let's say color this foot. Boop, boop. Really nervous because it's my first time recording much of anything with my voice on it. So, you know, there will be points, here you go, like with the ones that I closed the gaps in. There will be points where, you know, it's either closed or not. You just kind of have to slowly work on it. But I do think that working on one color at a time or one area at a time will help. And here's why. Because since this is paint unpainted, it only paints areas that you, well, have not painted. So for example, if I want to go in with, let's say, this comb color, actually let's go with the body color, and I want to accidentally do this, whoops, I'm not painting any of this, nor will it in any of the areas where it is currently painted, and that's great. And what's good about that is that eventually you will come to a point where, let's say that you painted the shirt, let me just not select all for this one thing. Let's say that I've painted the shirt and whatnot, and actually, you know what? No. Let's say that we painted the body. This is the outline, body. So, say, alright, let's say that we've painted some of these. So eventually, it'll become easier to actually paint this shirt because we probably painted at some point all of these hands and whatnot. So eventually, once everything is in paint unpainted, the areas that would be kind of in between these areas will not be painted once you do the automation in, let's say, this general area. And that's great because that's how we save time. So for now, what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna close all of the gaps in the feet, and I'm gonna try and close all of the gaps like right here in this hand and stuff like that, so that I can move on to explaining more of how to continue coloring the bubbles, and eventually we will move on to how to color the lines. So stay tuned, which is fine because again, this is gonna be edited. Sweet. Okay, and we're back. So as you can see, I have colored in all of the body parts that are with the body color. So now, because of the greatness of Paint Unpainted, now theoretically, we can do what I mentioned in the beginning about automation. So we can do this, hopefully, and it should, for the most part, it's fine if it has like little moments like here and there, because it's never meant to be super perfect, you know? And again, I have to close some gaps. It happens. But as you can see for the... Oh my god, did I miss a hand? Jesus. Anyway. So now it should paint mostly everything, so you don't have to be... So you don't have to be quite as precious with things quite as much. Like, you can very easily just kind of like erase little bits and bobs here and there. But for the most part, it should just... Okay. Oh, there. It should do most of these. Now, most of these places that are unpainted, again, are because of the bubble thing, so I have to close these gaps, which I will do shortly. Alright. And I guess I have to... This stupid blue face, Jesus Christ. Alright. What? Oh, because I'm Oh, son of a... So the thing is that what I've also have probably seen me do a couple of times now is that I click unpaint. Oh my god, did unpaint literally everything I did. Let me just Control Z all this whole mess. Jesus. Yeah. Super Control Z this and see. That's as far as it goes. Great. Oh man, shit, did I... So I undid a whole bunch of work because I'm a dummy dumb. So, yeah. Great. So anyway, F it. We're doing a stupid shirt now because that's what we're working on currently. And I will recolor whatever needs to be recolored. So what has been happening to me and how I undid this work is that I've been using a mouse. And if you have a mouse, in order to uncolor this, you can click like the little scrolly thing in the middle, and that's another shortcut. But I don't know how to write down scrolly thing in the middle. So the scroll, you can click it and it undoes it. If not, I believe that the unpaint is Alt-U. So Alt-U is for unpaint. For all of you out there. Also, when you're unpainting, don't select apply to all frames, like me, who was a super dummy dum, and now I have to do all this work again, like an insane person. So anyway, that's cool, that's cool. So I just wanted to take a second of showing you guys something. Like when you do circles, what it does is that these smaller bubbles here, you manage to catch them, because sometimes there are very small bubbles just in certain areas. Like for example, this is a smaller area. Sometimes it can make like micro bubbles in different places. Christ with this. So what we do to kind of like get a general area is that you could do sort of like the dash that I'm kind of doing right here, where I just like bip. Or you could do sort of like a very quick sort of like swoop like that, and what it does is that it envelops a greater area. And if there's anything sort of in between that gets caught of any tiny bubbles or whatever, you are able to color them. Also, it helps if you go into the into the line layer, since it doesn't have all these like little lines or whatever. And once you finish, you see here, whoop, this area is unpainted. Now that's something that it would be really hard to see when you're coloring, so just make sure that, you know, once you're either done coloring, in fact, here in this image, there's a second area that should be colored. You see these tiny fractures? Usually you can envelop them, or you could just do this technique of, you know, going into the line layer, checking things out, making sure nothing kind of pops up that hasn't been painted. So, you know, just a little tip. Okie dokie. So, now that we have our animation... Wait, camera. Okay. So now that we have our animation completely colored, let's start with the lines. By the way, I know that painting can be a little bit of a pain sometimes, and I do want to clarify that these lines are a bit rough, and they've been done by Laura Van Galen, who has done an excellent job animating. It is not her fault that her lines are this rough. It was a miscommunication on our part where we thought she was going to clean up the lines, but it turns out that her roughs were actually pretty clean to begin with. So instead of actually cleaning up the lines, we decided to take it upon ourselves to do this rough line work instead. So it is not, you know, like, this was a choice that Cook and I took, where we said, hey, your lines are excellent. Let's, instead of cleaning this up to be perfect, since we haven't set an industry standard yet, we decided to make it this way. So yes, coloring can be a bit tedious, but once we do eventually have another instructional video on how we're going to do an industry standard, it's going to shave off a lot of this time as well. I just wanted to clarify that Laura has made an excellent job in all of this, and she's an incredible animator, and I give her big props for making Chucky come alive and make it look this good. So just in case, shout out to my girl Laura back in the Netherlands. Alright, so now going back into my sketch info part. Poop, I gotta move my... So I'm not currently on my drawing tablet. Maybe I can do this with my mouse. Sure, why not? Let's keep... Alright. So what we're going to do next is we're going to color the lines. And in order to color the lines, you will notice that the lines already have qu'est-ce que c'est color. So if you were to paint with paint unpainted, such as so if you were to paint with paint unpainted, be careful because you might paint in the line layer just in case. Do not do this. Be very careful when you're doing your color work. Do not use the paint unpainted, because what you're going to do is that you're going to recolor some of these empty areas in the animation, in the line layer, and that is no bueno, because then, as you can see, when we get the other color on top of it, we just have that wrong color there. Not to mention that we're going to be using a tool called repaint, which I'm going to write down in a second. It's Alt-R, but I just want to show you what it does. Since we have this, turn off. Okay. What it does is that since the lines already have a color, we can just recolor what's already colored. So that's why it's very important for you to not accidentally do this in your line layer, because then once we start coloring our line work with the recolor tool, then we're gonna lose the lines, and that is a travesty. So I'm gonna go back into my sketch info card, and I'm gonna try my best to do this with a mouse. You know what, let me just, I used this color last time. So, okay, nope, okay. So, oh wow, Jesus. Alright, so, recolor is Alt-R. Hooray! Writing. So, just so that we can, check everything, paint unpainted is Alt-Y, close gaps is Alt-C, and recolor is Alt-R. It is to my understanding that these are the three basic things that you need for coloring artwork in animation. So, now we go back into the drawing layer back here. And we do Alt-R and go back into our Chucky official. So what I like to do personally, this is a personal choice, is that I like to color, since most of the body is going to be this outline body color, I like to do the whole select all, and just out of the get-go, instead of having black lines, they're all going to be this brown. So as you can tell now, since I select, oh no, what have I done? Shirt, why? What have I done? Was that even there to begin with? I'll figure something out. Okay, so let me just real quick do some... did I fuck up a shirt? God damn it. Oh, there you are. Oh, thank Jesus. Oh, that could have destroyed the line work. Alright, you see, I mess up too. Often, in fact. Alright, so now we should have, my god, my voice must be so annoying. So now we must have all of the lines in the line layer be this sort of brown color. And for me, it's just easier to start with this color. And now I can literally just, since all of these outlines have a different color, maybe do the comb and also kind of do a bit of the apply to all frames, since it's in a similar area. Maybe just see how it goes. Okay, so there will come times when you're doing this sort of like automated kind of version of it where you might get some bleed over, like let's say that, oh no, it's red here again. Well, literally, since you're recoloring things that are recolored, you can literally just get the outline body again and just be like, boop, boop, done. So honestly, lines, as long as you don't do the whole like paint unpainted thing, coloring lines should be easy peasy, because even if you mess up, you can just repaint it again. You don't even have to switch tools or anything. So yeah. And that's pretty much how we do the line work. So if you want, I guess, you see, here's another example of when you're doing the sort of automatic color all these lines in this area. Well, obviously animation moves, so you know. Here we go. Oh no, oh, I got this stupid thing checked on again with the, Anyway, you get the gist of it. Alright, coolio. Yep, that was my mistake. At some point, I did that one red example in the all category, and that was done. There we go. Hopefully I undid all of that. Alright, cool. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And then, theoretically, you know, here we are. You can see that the line work is kind of colored. So now I'm going to do the fast-forward-y thing again. I was like, hey, I'm going to do all the work, and you can kind of see it if you really want to slow down. So I guess stay tuned. Alright. Alrighty then. So, by the time that you have permanent damage, nerve damage in your wrist and carpal tunnel, you should be just about done. So now you can see. Wait, camera. Let me just. We got this little ditty. Now, what's missing here, you might ask? The beak. So let's tackle that now. Alright, so here we can see that this beak was actually pre-painted by Laura with these specific colors. Now what you will notice by using the eyedropper, which is Alt-D, just in case for anyone, you will notice that it is in this very different color. It is not the official face color. I mean, you could manually, she also colored it in the line layers, so the whole recolor thing that we want to do, yeah. Wait, shit. Am I in the... Recolor? One, right? No. Why is it not showing? Why are you making me look bad? It's late. I just want to go to sleep. There we go. Just it was locked, you guys. It was locked. Great. So anyway, so this whole recolor thing, we can't do that because it's all that's what I was talking about. But one thing we can do is go into the Alt-D for eyedropper that we just learned. Now we're going to take this color, we're going to right-click it, and what we're going to do is recolor drawings. And we're going to make sure that it says all drawings in this scene for this scene, and we're going to recolor it with the official face color. Again, click this all drawings and scene, unless you want to do like one drawing and that's it. But what this does is the magic of not having to do any of that again. And same goes with this inner mouth kind of color, where recolor drawings, all drawings in the scene. You go mouth inside color. Bang, bang, boom! The whole friggin' animation's been changed, and now we can do that with the tongue as well. I feel like my voice is getting a lot more shrill and annoying as time wears on, but bear with me. Alright. So now, it should be colored. Now what you will notice as well is that the lines are black. We cannot do the recolor technique that we did previously. So what I'm gonna do only for this one particular animation, since we haven't set an industry standard, is that we're gonna get that black color. We're gonna also do the recolor drawings, and for the time being, we're just gonna put in the outline face color for all of it. Usually we would color the teeth with a certain line, the inner mouth and tongue with different line colors, but honestly, for the purposes of this animation, it's honestly not very noticeable. And there we have it. And in theory, maybe even in practice, we can... Oh, there we go. We have everything with the official Chucky palette colored and going. So now is the time when I render this sucker, and you can see exactly what we have done. So thanks for sticking with me, and hopefully you learned a little something. And yeah, coolio. Peace out, I guess. Bye.